the first coffee, right, is made at 5:45 a.m. Kitchen starts 5:45 a.m. 7 days a week. It's not clean and finished till midnight 7 days a week.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we shine a light on people striving to make the world a better place. I'm Dave Azer, and once again, I am honored to interview the host of the show, Moshe Popack, and today's topic is fatherhood. You may not know this about Moshe, but he's the father of 10 kids. So he's pretty much seen it all, and he's going to share plenty of stories, anecdotes, and advice to help all of you parents out there. Now, here's my conversation with the host of Common Denominator, Moshe Popack. Enjoy. Well, hey, buddy.
Hey, Dave. Good to be back here in the other seat.
You don't have to do any work. You just sit there and talk for the next half hour.
Well, it's great having the break, and good always to sit down with you, Dave, and hopefully we'll give some good advice.
If anyone can give advice about fatherhood, it is the guy who has 10 kids. Isn't it so cool? I don't know if it's DNA or science or community or genetics or whatever, but like you've got 10 kids and they're all so different. I mean, it's just like neat to think about that. One likes sports, one doesn't like sports, one paints, one's into poems, whatever. I just think that's so like scientifically cool.
Yeah, I mean it's two people, right? Two parents, and I always think about. I was thinking about that the other day. That is really strange. I always think that, and I tell the kids, and Yafam, we promote this. Figure out who you are, which is our whole journey as humans. But I want to do it at a young age. Figure out who you are and do what you love. And I've said that before. And I still stand by that. And I think because of that, which is, again, as parents, it's not my place. They're not me.
Right.
They're them. So I believe that they have their own journey. Each one of my kids have their own journey. And it's the idea of unconditional love, right? So they're going to tell me the craziest thing, but I'm their father. So I just got to sit and take it.
But do you ever leave the room and go, that's crazy?
Oh, of course. I know all the time. And I know, but I sometimes also, you have to let them, fall. That's the hardest thing of all. As, my boys are, again, 15 and 17, the hardest thing is that teaching them that the world is a little bit tough. And sometimes they have to fall on their own to learn that.
Yeah,
and I'm having to deal with that.
That's super interesting too, because they're all different. You can't even teach them the same way, right? Like if one child, learns the hard way that life is rough, another child learns that life is rough. That might have two different emotions, and you as a parent, you got to attack it from different ways. So you're probably still figuring it out 10 kids into it.
For sure. I mean, some of my kids, I was a very shy as a child. Very shy, introverted personality as a child, and one of my kids is very much like that. But then some are very outward, high self-confidence, and what the same set of facts that would approach them. To your point, they would both react differently, completely.
Yeah.
And I have to bend over in my mind to figure that part out.
You almost need a flow chart. Kid 3, be nice. Kid 4, tough love.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It has been 18 years. I wish, first of all, I am a big fan of children. I do believe that children and their creativity. I know as adults we have these like boxes and silos, but I do believe that actually the creativity and the positive mindsets that kids have, I believe it's actually more correct than our like rigid adult things. Like think about how many things that we tell our kids because society says, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. But in our back of our mind, we're telling our kid that, but we don't want to do that garbage, that stuff. And that's tough. That's a tough balance because you don't want to, they have this spirit, and you as the parent, you want to foster that spirit.
Well, so to that point, we just traveled this past week. We went to Atlanta. I have 2 kids, so I don't know anything compared to you. But my son was wearing he's 3 years old, was wearing his pajama top inside out and had his shoes on his wrong feet. And so to your point, I was like, hey, buddy, I started telling him shoes are on the wrong feet. And then I thought, like, who am I to tell him that? Like, let him live his life, man. Maybe he'll be a billionaire because he'll invent like wrong-footed shoes and it'll catch on. So I think if a 3-year-old wants to be creative and wear shoes on the wrong feet, then fine, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the more open-minded and accepting, but also as a parent, critical thinking, asking lots of questions. I always talk to the kids about many people have advice, and I say you should listen to the advice if the person has journeyed in that space that they're giving advice. So I think at least that way. And that way they'll be open. And I always teach them to look and research, like any random topic. Research and think, because we don't have enough in the school system of critical thinking. And you don't have to be mean and aggressive. You can ask questions directly and nicely. And I try to promote that with the kids. And even to us, they're constantly questioning me and Yafa all the time.
Yeah.
Well, why is this and why is that so? And it's exhausting.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Your older
right?
kids, they don't mind challenging you.
Yes,
yeah.
And it's fun, and I'll have to sit and I'll go through it, and that's the way we develop those brain dendrites, those thoughts.
I wanted to ask you about travel because as I mentioned, we just went away, and my wife afterwards were like, we're never leaving again, and we just have 2 kids, but to go through all the machinations of packing and airplanes and stuff, but traveling with 10 kids. How do you and Yafa do it? Any advice for parents for traveling?
So, it's gotten to a point where all parts of our life, right? Because again, it's the 10 kids, we have the podcast, I have my work. I'm a big fan, and I saw this from my grandmother, of like writing things down and calendar, right? So systems, right? The more systems and the more playbook. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't forget the shoes. Don't forget the backpack. Don't forget the peanut butter sandwiches.
Don't forget the kid.
Don't forget the kid, right? And we don't do a Home Alone. I always joke with my wife, that will happen one day, I'll tell you. And so it's literally down to the micro, macro of systems. Write down, don't assume anything. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and do it in advance, right? We're traveling in 2 weeks from now. Okay, let's lay out the suitcases, 13 days before. Okay, we lay it out. Okay, let's get to the airport 4 hours before because there could be delays. We're going to Miami Airport. We're doing stuff. So, and then when we're on the ground, what is our plan each day? Planning, super, super, super important. And because we've gotten burned right through the years, so trial and error. And so now it's getting pretty good when we travel. We have the older kids help with the younger kids, and then, we each holding hands. So it's not easy, but why do I like to travel with the kids? It takes us out of the environment, and because when we'll get older, I want them to be able to spend time with each other. When they're young, we don't have so much time, till they get older and they're out of the house. So I think family is super important, and the fact that we have 10 kids, I want them to connect with each other.
Yeah, you had said that to me a while back, and I kept that. I thought that was so interesting. You talked about how vacations are important to you because of the bond between your kids, and it seems to be strengthened the most when they're traveling. So I wanted to ask you about that. Do you find that your older kids protect your younger kids? You just mentioned that. Do you? I think what's more important than your siblings, right? As we get older. How do you manage that with so many different personalities? I'm sure they bicker with each other all the time. Yeah. How do you keep the family tight? How do you make sure that the older kids support the younger kids look up to the older kids, etc.?
So a few years ago, I thought it was fantastic advice. I'm not perfect at it, but what I'll do is, even if it's for 20 minutes or a half hour, I try to do, whether it's 1 week, 4 or 5 kids Yafa, 1 week, 4 or 5 kids myself, kind of one-on-one time. See where they are, check in where they are, make sure they're feeling good emotionally, what's going on with their school, with their friends. And I'm constantly going back to that big picture with each of the kids, meaning I told my oldest son, Mendy, take your younger siblings, go out, get some Starbucks with the kids, take them out to the park, because in the end, I'm telling him that, and then he's doing it, right? So like make sure to create that bond. The only time that it happens is when you set the intention. So I'm constantly having to go back. It never ends. The journey of parenthood, don't expect it to ever end. I'm sure when they're 40, they'll be coming to me, asking questions, and I've given to that, meaning what greater thing. My son said, my 9-year-old once told me, we had a new baby, and he looked at my wife, and I remember this was unbelievable. He's like, wow. He's looking at the baby. He's like, you get this for free? He's like, you don't pay for, like, so he understood. And I think that each person that becomes a parent, when they become a parent, there's nothing that compares to that. Yes, sleepless nights.
Right.
Yes, stress. Yes, financial. Yes, this. Yes, right. Yes. But purpose and meaning, like life, and I know also, I saw the stat, we're getting less and less families and less children. But I am a big believer. It creates a bond, and you're able to pass on to the next generation. And it's like your kid. Like, it's nice,
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I want to ask you, but, with 10 kids comes 10 different dietary needs, restrictions, enjoyments. How do you cook for 10 kids?
So literally, a bunch of the kids are kind of foodies. I mean, specific. They like to be in the kitchen. Yafa's also foodie. My mother-in-law, and our kitchen starts literally. The first coffee, right, is made at 5:45 a.m. Kitchen starts 5:45 a.m. 7 days a week. It's not clean and finished till midnight 7 days a week. It is going the entire time, full time. Obviously, there's cupboards, there's organization, there's things. But Mandy, Ellie, they're on the grill, they're cooking. Everyone's cooking. Natan likes to make salads, and he makes even if he makes eggs or pasta or things, and it's interesting to see that, meaning that everybody has their way, but everybody's kind of found their way, and they actually share whatever food they're making. They kind of share it with each other, but it's full time. The food situation, or packing lunches for the kids, everything is, again, that's systems, just tons of systems. But the kitchen does go from very early in the morning to late at night.
So what's your strategy when you need a minute, you personally, right? You've come home from a long day at work, and then you've got a noisy house with 10 kids, and they're in the kitchen, and they're going crazy, and someone's yelling at somebody, and somebody hurt their knee, and there's just a lot of noise, and you want to be a great dad. You love your kids, but man, it's just been a long day. What do you do? And also, what should parents do when you just need 5 minutes?
Right. I think that's just a front and center of what it is. Meaning, you have to say, you know what, and not in a bad way, not in a mean way. Just exactly that. I just give me a few minutes. I just got home. A lot of things going on, because there's always a lot of things going on, and just kind of go up to my room, just breathe, relax, calm my mind. I know that I'm gonna, get the kids to sleep, and then I'm gonna have a little bit more downtime. So let me just kind of finish what I'm doing, and then that way I can be fully with full intention at kind of the next 2 hours of what's going on. But you gotta communicate that. Communication, whether in a relationship, and that's everything. That's honesty. I know sometimes we kind of tell quasi like white lies or things because we don't want to hurt other people's feelings and stuff. The number one thing is saying things exactly the way they are. Saying the truth, because life's too short. You say it. You don't want things sitting on you. You say it to your kids. You say it, to your spouse. You just got to say things the way they are, and deal with it, because I also believe everyone has a right to how they feel. But you also have to give the space for your child, for your spouse, for everybody to say how they feel. the truth. That's just
Yeah,
healthy.
and so that's already tough, but if you do it and you sort of go through the motions and you're not present, then you've kind of wasted everyone's
Yeah.
time, right? So I think the hardest part of it is to commit to doing all that, but then when you're doing it, to really do it, otherwise what's the point?
Right. Right. Don't do anything halfway. Might as well just not start, and that's fine. I agree.
Can you give us an example of when you and Yafa have gotten it right and maybe one when you've gotten it wrong?
Sure. So, I look now at Mendy and Ellie, and I really am. I mean, it's my two oldest kids, and they always say the first kids you kind of make the mistakes, and they're still young. They're still young, but I'm super proud how they both check in with their mother, and if she ever needs anything, she wants something to eat or needs an errand to be run. And I always see that as a base because soon they'll be married or have a girlfriend, whatever it is. And in today's world, that's something you have to be, a grown-up man. And that's the way I see it. Like, in other words, that they should shape to be good, respectable human beings in society. So I'm very proud of that. They really, again, a long journey, but from where they are, and I always say, you have to look at where's that person. Don't compare that child to another child. Never ever make that comparison. They are that child. They have strengths and weaknesses like every human being. As a parent, help them with their strengths and grow those, and the weaknesses, you don't have to, it's what you focus on, right? They can be an excellent at, being, a teacher or a lawyer or whatever their passion is. That's great. And then what we've gotten wrong, what would I say we've gotten wrong? I think that, where we lived for a while, for many years when they were younger, was more of an older community, and it wasn't with their friends. And then we were kind of in different schools when the kids were younger. But I think I'm a big fan of the schooling system when they're younger to teach them a base. But I do say master the system, but then also master out of the box. You need both. So my thinking was, I did go to law school, business school, and I think that, and I was like, you don't really need the schooling, but you do need that. You do need that discipline. You do need the schooling, but then you also got to learn how to be that critical thinker. So I think that we were all over the place with different schools, and I would just stick to, like now with our, 9-year-olds and 8-year-old and 6-year-old, we're just sticking to that one school, and this is what it is. You got to do it and tough it out. We had to learn our lesson from that, and we pivoted. But if I would do it again, I would do.
I think to sort of crystallize everything you're talking about, there's kind of a through line, which is to say that this is an evolving process, that you're still learning stuff. And I think it's important for all the parents listening and watching to think about that. Yeah. There's going to be days where you're just not a great parent. You have your own whatever, and you get something wrong. I know personally, I've beaten myself up over stuff, and if my son or my daughter is unhappy and I can't fix it, or maybe I'm the reason they're unhappy and I'm just so mad about it. But, God willing, the next morning you get to wake up and do it all over, right? So I think kind of the lesson is that, sort of learn as you go and keep your head up and just smile and be a good role model and just love the hell out of them, yeah?
Agreed, 100%. Always remember, and I think that this is the key. When we went into marriage, or nobody actually taught us. Okay, we saw it as a child, maybe of a parent, but we weren't the ones in the father or mother position. So don't ever beat yourself up because we never had lessons, in that exact role. We're doing the best we can. Some days will be good, some days will be bad. Put on some great music that you like and just relax it out. And tomorrow will be a new day.
Yeah, carrying around an egg in home ec class in second grade doesn't really prepare you.
Right, that's right.
Think you're going to have any more?
I don't know we necessarily plan one way or the other. Open. Again, I do love having kids, and I know the narrative is like, oh, enjoy the life, but I like that, again, when we travel, when we're family, when we're together, it is organized chaos at the highest levels, for sure. I'm open. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one more gets you a soccer team, a football team. There's advantages to doing that. Okay. So we've asked you these questions before. I'm going to try and spin it family-wise. What are you grateful for specifically with regards to your family?
Well, I never thought, when I went to marriage, I never thought that I would have these many kids. And I'm so grateful because I always think, as a father, I always think about safety. I'm grateful sitting here today that they're still all healthy, because statistically, it could have gone the other way, and I constantly think about that, and I have tremendous gratitude that they are all healthy and seemingly happy, and it really, when I'm by myself, it really fills me.
Actually, I got to ask you follow up on that. How do you not spend your days just like so worried that something is going to happen?
It's a lot of work, and that is. First thought goes to my mind because we've had some scares, and the first thought that goes to my mind is about my wife, because I think about, okay, how is she? Like, I'll deal with myself, and that's fine, but hopefully she'll be strong. You have no choice, because you can't predict the future, and you have to do the best you possibly can. I am on even when I sleep. I am. That's the truth. I am on, and that's fine. That was a choice that I made, and I'd rather be on and not accidents. Like, because I would never want something to happen to my kids, and nobody would. So.
Oh my gosh, there's nothing worse. Yeah. And then finally, what's something that we don't know about you or your wife or your kids or your dog?
So that's a good question, and it's funny because I'm getting the same reaction that all my other guests have gotten. So for me, before I go to sleep most nights, and maybe we've seen a post about this, but I love a meditation. I do a meditation in my sauna near my bed, my infrared sauna, because I know we've had a post about that, and it's been really amazing. It goes up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, because you asked me ways that I reground myself, and it's about 11 minutes. There's a breathing expert his name is Wim Hof, and I put my earphones on, kind of everybody's already sleeping, and I just go into my process. I'm dripping sweat, but it's really grounding, really amazing. So I recommend it. Far infrared saunas.
Okay, sounds good. Well, listen, man, thanks for letting me do this again.
Awesome.
I loved it.
It's been a lot of fun, Dave.
It's great to hear from the expert in parenting. 10
I'm
kids
on my journey.
Maybe more. Who knows? Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Dave. All the best.